Hola, señoritas. Welcome back to My Wedding Lessons. I am Hugo Alejandro, your Colombian wedding coach. Yes, I said Colombian. You know, like Encanto. This happens to be a really fun year to be Colombian. It's not every year that Disney releases a movie about your culture, and it's really fun to watch my kids because, of course, they're half Colombian and they're all about it right now. So anyways, I thought to plug that in because I want to honestly be memorable to you. So if you want a little bit of spice in your wedding planning and some tips that are really going to help you, well, around here, we don't talk about Bruno, but we do talk about 7 tips of things that are really going to make a difference when it comes to your budget. And I know money is tough sometimes, and my wife and I had to pay for most of our wedding, so I get it. I have been where some of you are, and I'm hoping that some of these 7 things that I have learned, some of them easily, and others after hundreds of weddings and watching other people make mistakes. So I'm hoping I can save you that experience. So we are here to relax, dream, and enjoy. That is the tag of my channel. And I want you to dream big, and I want to help you make those dreams come true, hopefully with some of these tips. So please take a moment to yourself, grab the drink of your choice, and let's get started with My Wedding Lessons. All right, so we'll start from the bottom. Tip number 7 is DJ. What am I talking about? DJs can save you money versus, say, hiring a band. And it's not to knock bands, but the more people involved, the more money everything is going to cost you. So with a one-man show where you have music and hopefully even lighting, you can eat away at some of the other costs because entertainment, the visual experience, and the auditory experience are provided by a professional. So I would tell you, DJ is a place where if you spend more money, you would save in other places. So that is number 7. And with that, now the next one you can probably guess, but the next big thing that I'm going to tell you is you need to avoid Saturdays and peak season. You need to ask vendors in your particular area, hey, what is peak season for you guys? What are the months? And then with that, try to book away from peak months or peak days of the week so that you get a little bit more savings. Many vendors and venues are going to be willing to extend to you somewhat of a discount if you book on dates that they don't have a whole lot going on. So it's something to consider. I have mentioned before that Fridays are almost just as good as a Saturday if you give people enough chance to get off work. So don't do it at 4 p.m. when no one has had a chance to get off work, or go clean up and then make it to your wedding. So give people more time. If you avoid Saturdays and you make it during the week, that is the one rule of giving people time to get there. But then seasons, I'll tell you, for example, in our particular part of the world, in the Midwest of the United States, basically from mid-March through November, we have high season. But then most of the winter for weddings, it is pretty low season. So most of us vendors and venues are going to be willing to extend to you a little bit of a discount if you book on the times that we don't have a lot going on. So again, food for thought, but just know that Saturdays and peak season are going to mean that you're going to pay a little bit more of a premium for all the services. So if you are on a tight budget, avoid those things if you can. With that, let's move on to 765, tip number 5. And this is combo deals. What am I talking about when it comes to combo deals? If you group services together that normally would take multiple vendors, let's say, for example, in my case, and I'll throw a shameless plug over here, but check it out, LionsRoad.com or at LionsRoad on Instagram. When it comes to what we do, we can do DJ, lighting, videography, dance lessons, which I actually personally teach, and then also marquee letters and quite a few other things that are really fun, and you save and get lots of value in the packages because we only charge overhead once. When you have multiple vendors, that means everybody is gonna charge you some measure of overhead and just because they're showing up, you're going to pay a certain amount of money. Now, one thing that we don't touch, and I feel like it's very, very sacred, is photography. You have to be in love with your photographer. You have to love their work and also their personality, because they're going to be in your face most of the day, and they're going to coordinate the flow of all the family photos, which are crucial. If you take too long taking family photos, everything else in the day is going to get screwed up. I should make a video about that. But yes, pick the photographer directly, and if they offer maybe videographer or videography as part of the package, then that will probably represent some savings. If your planner is also a florist, or they can provide some elements of decor, you can find out with each of these people if maybe they have any other services that can help you eliminate some of the other vendors on your list. Many times, for example, the caterer might also offer planning, or they might also offer an element of decor. So anyways, combo deals, when you have multiple things offered under the same roof or the same vendor, and most of the time that represents a little bit of savings. Now, I'm not telling you, like, if you are on a tight budget, you should by all means do some of the homework to find out what different quotes look like. But again, for the most part, I would dare to say that combo deals are gonna be an element of savings for you. And with that, let's go into crowdsourcing. Crowdsourcing is basically the concept that there are things in your list, especially when it comes to decor, when it comes to desserts or party favors, where you can ask for help and make it a community project of, hey people, I'm on a tight budget. I would actually post this and I would tell people, hey, let's have a decor party, or basically a group project where we do invites or save the dates or party favors or centerpieces, but try to work on things ahead of time with a crowd that is not gonna charge you for every service or help that they provide you. So anyways, consider crowdsourcing, and depending on how handy some of your friends are, the more you're gonna be able to save. But if you have a lot of people in your family or your friends group that might be able to help you with some of the decor elements in particular, you might be able to save quite a bit of money by having that. But I'm not advising that you get a pile of things to do the day of the wedding that will be stressful enough that I think it's worth the money to pay somebody to head that department of decor or the DIYs. There are things you want to do yourself. There are things that you should, just for the sake of not stressing out over them, hand to someone else. But again, if the budget is just tight, then crowdsourcing and finding creative ways to get things done sometimes helps you. And with that, let's move on to this next one, which I think I might get a little bit of hate from, but we'll see if I do or I don't. Honeymoon. Now, by the way, I know it's one word, but graphic design looked a little bit better with 2 lines. So anyways, don't hate me. What am I talking about when it comes to budget savings and honeymoons? Well, there's this conception that you should do this big reception, okay? And for some of you, that's gonna fit your personality and your goals, and for others, it's not. And there are also the understanding or the pressure sometimes to also have a big honeymoon. So you have reception and you have honeymoon. And I'm gonna tell you, if you do really big on both sides, you're gonna end up probably in debt somewhere in there. So consider that you may wanna pick one or the other and invest into whichever one of those two is more important to you. I will tell you, as a little bit more of an extrovert, I would say the reception is probably a bigger deal to me. So I would want to spend more money on the reception and maybe consider, okay, let's wait a little bit so that later on we might take a bigger honeymoon or a vacation together, maybe for your first anniversary, and spread out the timeline in which we have to have all this money available to us, so that maybe if a year later we can have a big honeymoon, we just were able to work that much longer and save that much longer, so that the honeymoon wasn't piled up on top of every other expense of the wedding. So again, pick. If you're in a tight spot, if you're in a tight budget, pick one of the two. and it's just an idea to think out of the box, but maybe if we wait to take a really big honeymoon, we have more time to save up for it and not get in debt ahead of time. But if for some reason you decide, you know what, the reception is not as big of a deal to me as the honeymoon is, so maybe consider, okay, let's make a smaller investment into the reception and let's go all out on the honeymoon. Or another alternative would be to maybe do a destination wedding where you are basically already in the place where you want to take your honeymoon, and that would be a win-win. So again, trying to think outside the box here, but don't feel the pressure to do everything just so big. The honeymoon, I know, is really fun to post about and to kind of brag a little bit and location flex, like, hey, look at all these pictures of us at the beach. But hey, it could be just Destin, Florida instead of the Bahamas or something to that effect. You know, again, food for thought, but you don't have to go all out for wedding, reception, and also honeymoon. So again, let me know in the comments. We definitely want you to interact and let me know if I miss one point that you think is going to save people a lot of money. I will make a video about it. So comments, please. And then let's go into the next point, which is a little bit more reasonable, I think, and it's wine and beer. Why am I singling out two of those drinks that you might have at the bar? Well, let's start with, are you serving alcohol or not? And if you're not, basically skip through this. I will tell you, make some sort of fun mocktail so that there's something that people can hold in their hand and feel special about. But if you're doing alcohol, there's also this big pressure on couples to go all out on a bar. And I would tell you as a DJ, if people have one or two drinks, it helps my job tremendously. It's not necessarily a deal breaker. I actually learned how to DJ at a very, very Christian college where drinking was absolutely not allowed. So I feel like as a DJ, I have the skill set to entertain any crowd, whether it's a dry party or a full bar. But not every DJ out there has that same background. And for the most part, again, if people have had one or two drinks, it is a little bit easier to compel them to get out on the dance floor. However, if you are on a tight budget, the bar is one of the places where you can very, very quickly absolutely blow everything out of the water when it comes to your savings and the numbers. So don't feel pressure to have all the expensive liquor and choices for people that, again, are going to be very, very costly. And talking to your particular bartender or catering service is going to be more handy. But I will tell you that if you limit the choices to just, beer and wine, you might be able to save a lot of money when it comes to the end result of paying for the bar. Cash bars normally have a negative effect on receptions. So that would be, to me, a last resort to at least have something available. But I would tell you that if people take the time to come and spend an evening with you, and some of them travel a long distance, that wine and beer would be a nice touch to have. But again, to save money, think of limiting the choices. You don't have to have every alcohol or top shelf item in the world in order to provide a great experience for your guests. Most of it will be digested before they even get home. So yes, when it comes to food and alcohol, don't feel like you have to have this huge menu because it's gonna cost a lot of money. Wine and beer can be just fine. Ask your bartender or your catering services about ideas on how to do this. And then the most crucial element and the cornerstone of every piece of the budget is, are you ready for this? Guest count. You probably guessed it, but the more people, the more money it takes to pull this off. If you have a very large guest count, you're gonna be up a creek to be able to feed everybody, to be able to offer a drink to everybody. You have to have more cake, more venue, you have to have more PA system. So every time that you extend the guest list, you're making it more challenging for that budget to make ends meet. So Consider options that creatively could limit the number of people. You could do it with the date. If you book a date where people are just not available, so maybe during the week, or like I said, a Thursday or a Friday, you could start a little bit earlier in order to weed off a little bit of the guest count. But the thing is that when it comes to those tricks, they might still RSVP and just not show up, which nobody wants that. Or you can do, again, a destination wedding where you definitely limit a lot of the guest count. So again, to each their own. If you are extroverted like I am, you probably want as many people at your reception as you possibly can. So some of these tips might apply, but guest count is the cornerstone of everything else and how much you're gonna spend. I am gonna make a video in regards to what the averages are, and everything with a grain of salt, because depending on where you live, this might be different. But I have done, and I have also researched quite a bit on what the numbers are. So I'm also gonna follow this app with a video, and when it's ready, we'll put a card up at the top. But again, to each their own. You need to decide what's important to you. And from that decision, let's focus the budgeting options on the things that are most important, and then have a little bit left over for the things that could be a combo deal, things that could be outsourced, the things that could be Etsy. I hope you find value in videos like this, where maybe one of these ideas you haven't thought about, and it brings you a little bit more money to spend and the things that you're crazy about. So again, please don't forget to like and subscribe and hit the little bell so that you know when we post the things right away. And from here, I don't always teach people how to save money while planning their weddings, but when I do it right here in my wedding lessons. Are you ready to party?